If you love dark, emotionally tangled family dramas, or if you enjoy thrillers where long buried secrets claw their way to the surface, or if you can't resist stories about sisters, mothers, money, and the dangerous weight of the past, and if you want a novel where the truth comes slowly, painfully, and explosively into view, if so, then today's book just might be for you. Today, I'll be reviewing El Dorado Drive by Megan Abbott. Welcome to Spencer Reads Everything. I'm your host, Spencer Duncan, and on this channel, I review every book that I read. Fiction, nonfiction, history, horror, poetry, and everything in between. And I help you decide which book is for you. Today's review is for El Dorado Drive by Megan Abbott. I picked this one up because it was recommended on a podcast. If you are a frequent viewer of my videos, then you know that I've been saying that a lot lately. I'm pretty sure it was NPR's Pop Culture Happy Hour, although I'm not positive. And of course, all I needed was that little suggestion for it to get put onto my reading list, and I must say that it was an interesting read. But before we can dig into the book itself, let's take a look at the author, Megan Abbott. She is an award-winning American novelist best known for her razor-sharp psychological thrillers and her deep interest in the hidden tensions of girlhood, womanhood, and family life. She earned her bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan, and she went on to complete her PhD in English and American literature at New York University, where she focused on hard-boiled crime fiction and film noir, traditions that still echo through her work today. Today's being a fine example of that. Abbott began her career writing noir fiction set in mid-century America before shifting into contemporary domestic suspense, where she has become one of the genre's defining voices. So her novels like Dare Me, The Fever, You Will Know Me, Give Me Your Hand, Beware the Woman, and others all blend atmosphere, obsession, ambition, and danger in ways that feel both intimate and unsettling. She has also written for television, including HBO's The Deuce and adaptations of her own novels. With El Dorado Drive, she continues exploring the emotional knots that bind sisters, mothers, and daughters, showing how loyalty, resentment, and long-buried secrets can sit side by side, and how the past refuses to stay buried. Now, before we go any further, this is your spoiler warning. El Dorado Drive is a slow-burning psychological thriller, and much of its impact comes from the way that Megan Abbott reveals the truth piece by piece. I will be walking through the almost entire plot, including some of the major twists and, of course, some of the main characters' fates. And so I won't quite give you the final revelation. I will leave that up to you. But I will certainly be sharing stuff that if you want to take this on cold, then you should probably not listen to this review. I certainly will be spoiling enough of it. But if you're ready to jump in, let's move on. So, the plot of El Dorado Drive follows Harper Bishop, who is a middle-aged, stable worker whose life has slowly contracted into routines, some small to large debts, and a deep but wary love for her two sisters, Pam and Deborah. Harper has lived in the shadow of her more glamorous siblings for decades, but when the novel opens, she is drawn back into their orbit with a force that she just can't avoid. At the beginning of the novel, the family actually gathers for the high school graduation of Pam's son, Patrick. The celebration is both joyful, but also a bit fraught. Pam has spent money she absolutely does not have to create a lavish backyard party, a last glorious moment before Patrick leaves for college. His little sister Vivian, once a sweet, horse-loving kid, is now a very sullen, hard-living teenager whose behavior escalates by the day. During the party, Pam tells Harper a devastating truth that Patrick's father, Doug, Pam's charming, unreliable ex, has been secretly draining both children's trust funds. He took every dollar, forging paperwork to make it look like tuition withdrawals. Pam has no savings, no income to fall back on, and now no fallback for Patrick's education. The sisters get drunk together, dredging up their childhood and the long shadow of their parents' dysfunction. The financial pressure, the guilt, and the exhaustion are overwhelming. Something during the night happens, and Harper actually gets a voicemail from Doug, who has not shown up. Of course not, after it's just been discovered that he has been withdrawing all of this money. And he encourages Harper to talk some sense into Pam. And that is, of course, not with a whole lot of context, and Harper panics. She abruptly leaves the town the next morning for a summer horse camp job on the other side of the state. And this is, clearly part escape, but also some kind of self-protection and maybe just a little bit of reprieve from her family, who appear to be a lot. But when Harper finally returns months later, she finds that Vivian is increasingly reckless and angry and fiercely loyal to her father despite his betrayal. Pam is juggling debt collectors, legal threats, and the constant strain of a daughter who is slipping through her fingers. Deborah is dealing with her own financial disaster and her husband Perry's declining health. All three sisters are clinging to the last threads of stability, but they reveal to Harper that they have been involved in a new, very secretive approach to making some money. But Harper has to provide a major buy-in to get in on the action. It does not take long for things to get weird. Harper's sisters suddenly seem more independent, but they are working with people in the town that they don't know well, or they have a rocky or distant relationship with at best. And then the central tragedy hits. Pam dies suddenly and violently. She is found dead in her home at Dorado Drive. The house shows signs of chaos. Vivian is evasive and furious. Doug, who has been avoiding Pam and fighting lawsuits, is impossible to find. And the police turn their attention to Harper, whose abrupt summer disappearance and complicated family ties make her an attractive suspect, in addition to questions about all of these new sources of income, or at least efforts at income. From here, the novel becomes both a mystery and a psychological study. Harper tries to piece together the truth of Pam's final weeks, her financial desperation, her escalating fights with Doug, her inability to control Vivian, and she keeps running into conflicting stories. Vivian insists Pam was unstable. Doug claims Pam threatened him. The financial strains, the unanswered questions, the new weird way of making money all turn this murder into a major community event that runs deep. And I think I'll let you read the rest to find out. I think that gives you a pretty good idea. I will save the very final twists and turns for you to discover on your own. My personal reaction to Dorado Drive, I have to say, starts with admiration for Megan Abbott's craft. She is a writer who knows exactly what she is doing, and the novel reflects that. The prose is tight and stylish, the emotional atmosphere is thick without being overdone, and the internal knots of this family are drawn with real subtlety. Abbott understands the psychology of sisters and mothers and daughters, and she has a remarkable eye for the small gestures that reveal who people are long before they actually say anything. I also appreciated the scope of the book. Abbott is interested in how people respond when the ground beneath them shifts, especially when that ground is money or status or the long shadow of a family reputation. The novel captures that instability well. The graduation party, the tangled loyalties, the buried caches of money. I may not have included that in my summary, but there are buried caches of money. The constant weight of financial pressure and the generational patterns repeating themselves all make for compelling themes. Abbott is excellent at portraying the slow suffocation of a family that has been living beyond its means emotionally as much as financially. That said, by the end of the novel, my enthusiasm had cooled a little bit. For all the quality of the writing, the book ultimately didn't resonate with me the way I hoped it would. I was really looking forward to this release, and while the ingredients I do think are quite potent and strong, the emotional impact never quite mixed right for me. The final revelations I think are well built, but I didn't care much about them, and I didn't entirely buy into the weight of everything going on. The central idea that the unraveling of a privileged family can expose long ignored truths, I think is clear, but it didn't entirely compel me to care all that much about any of the main individuals in this book. I have to admit that stories about white-collar crime tend to frustrate me more than intrigue me, and that probably shaped my experience. And so in the end, this was a well-written novel that I admired, but I didn't fully connect with it because, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't care much about those three sisters, and I certainly didn't care about the fact that their daddy was once really rich. Just did not resonate with me. So who is this for? Well, Dorado Drive is for readers who gravitate toward psychological fiction where the real suspense comes from relationships rather than plot mechanics. If you enjoy domestic noir built around sisters, mothers, and daughters, people who love each other fiercely but wound each other just as deeply, this book offers a rich emotional landscape to explore. I should say, I keep saying sisters, mothers, and daughters, and that is because even though there are some male individuals in the book, their relationship is either tangential or much more for framing the plot in a certain way, but it is not actually a core element. Matter of fact, any of the male characters, you have some that you would characterize as good guys and some that you might characterize as shady to straight up bad guys, but regardless of how you characterize them, they are not all that important, relatively speaking, at least trying to draw you in emotionally. I would also say that this book, although it appeals to readers who appreciate a slow burn, I would also say that it is also for people that are just curious about pretty suspenseful plots. The author builds tension gradually, layering past and present as well as guilt and resentment until the shape of the story finally comes into focus. So if you like novels where unease builds one small detail at a time, this is very much in that tradition. This is also a strong match for readers who enjoy elegant, observant prose. The author's language is pared down but textured. There is an attentiveness to gesture and memory and atmosphere. And I think readers who value style as much as story will find her work rewarding. And finally, this book, it will resonate with anyone interested in stories about the illusions that families must maintain, especially families who've lived comfortably or appeared to until all of that scaffolding collapses. So if you find it compelling to watch characters navigate the aftermath of lost status, financial ruin, or a broken facade, El Dorado Drive lives squarely in that space. So who is this not for? Well, this book is not going to be for readers who want a fast-paced thriller with clear villains, high-stakes action, or tightly wound plot twists that snap into place. El Dorado Drive moves slowly and intentionally, and its most dramatic moments happen inside conversations, as well as relationships and long histories, not chase scenes or shocking reveals, although you do have some shocking reveals, and you do have some intense scenes. I would certainly say that that is not going to be what compels the story from page to page. That is only going to be at certain critical moments. It is also not a great fit for readers who struggle to connect with stories centered on privilege or financial mismanagement or the slow collapse of a comfortable life. If white-collar crime or family entitlement and the unraveling of wealthy or once wealthy households tends to leave you frustrated rather than fascinated, such as myself, this novel may not hold your interest. And also readers who prefer tidy resolutions may also feel unsatisfied. I would say that the ending often in all of her books can lean into ambiguity, some emotional complexity, and moral gray areas rather than any real neat closure. And the book offers answers, but certainly it does not offer comfort, and not every reader enjoys that. And finally, if you read domestic suspense primarily for the plot mechanics rather than the interior lives of the characters, this one may not be your favorite. It is driven far more by psychology than by a mystery structure. El Dorado Drive is a well-crafted novel written by an author who understands the complexity of family life better than almost anyone working in domestic noir. Megan Abbott delivers sharp prose, intimate character work, and a careful look at how money, resentment, and long-held expectations can distort a family from the inside out. There is a lot there to admire. At the same time, this was not a book that fully connected with me. The writing is strong, the atmosphere is compelling, and the emotional dynamics are nuanced. But the story never quite landed in the way that I hoped it would. The themes are clear and the final revelations are delivered with precision, yet I found myself indifferent to them. That is less a failure of the novel and more a matter of personal taste. Stories rooted in a financial collapse and white-collar wrongdoing simply do not resonate with me as deeply as other forms of suspense. Still, if you enjoy character-driven psychological fiction, intricate family dynamics, and slow burning tension built one small choice at a time, El Dorado Drive may be well worth your time. The author remains an exceptional stylist, and even when her themes don't speak directly to me, the quality of her writing is unmistakable. I would love to hear your thoughts on this book or other novels by Megan Abbott or other examples of urban noir. Please let me know what you're thinking in the comments. While you're here, please check out more of my videos on the channel, especially if you enjoy book reviews across genres. I read widely and my videos reflect that. So whether it is fiction, nonfiction, romantasy, or Shakespeare, hopefully you can find something that interests you. And if you're enjoying this video or any of my videos, please share them. The more people that know about my channel, the more videos I can make. And don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and until next time, keep those pages turning.